What is up? This is the War Dog. Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Theater with my guest host, JR. What's going on, JR?
What's going on, War Dog?
Not much, brother. Just sweating it out in the Georgia heat. Today we've got two awesome artists. I've become friends with them on the Collector's Corner. They are also on Instagram. They can tell you where to find them on Instagram when I announce their names. Both of these guys are awesome. I love their artwork. First guy I'm going to announce is Mosis. What is going on, Mosis?
Oh, I'm ready to find this podcast to be fully operational when the wind's around.
Thank you, sir. And you're on Instagram. What is your Instagram?
My Instagram is Gosmosis, GOZMOSIS_.
Check out Moses on Instagram, and Goz is also on Facebook with Skull Punch Graphics, and I think he's got his own Facebook page. Check Goz out. He does some awesome artwork. We also have Lagen Chase. What is going on, Lagen?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
It's awesome to have you on with us, brother. What is your Instagram? Let's pimp you guys out a little bit here.
Yeah, my Instagram is LegosArt025. That is Legos like the blocks, LEGOSART 025.
And Lagen, I think you also have your own Facebook page under Lagen Chase, right?
Yes, I do.
So, yes, definitely check out both of these guys' artwork. I'm a fan of both of them, and I look forward to doing business with them in the future. Today, we are going to talk about some Star Wars. And let me tell you why we're going to be talking about Star Wars today, because I'm a major Star Wars fan. I'm actually like one of those Star Wars geeks. And you can call me a Star Wars geek or a fanboy or whatever you want, because I'm pretty bulletproof to those types of things. It doesn't bother me. Cracks me up, actually. But I watched some stuff on YouTube, and I ended up seeing the new Star Wars movie trailer. And I watched it, and in the back of my mind, like, it was almost like one of those, like, electronic signs that go around. Like, in the back of my mind, it was like, I can't wait to watch this on video. And I never, ever, ever would have thought that I would be thinking that way about a Star Wars movie. Now, I will admit that I didn't run to the theater to go see Solo. I watched Solo. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty decent. I mean, you know, it wasn't perfect, but I was satisfied with it, and that's all that really matters. I had fun with it. I thought that would have probably been better on a TV show than as a movie. I think Disney might have just made a misstep on that one and was a little bit too confident about that one. But otherwise, I never imagined that I would ever be thinking to myself that I can't wait till this movie comes out on video. And so we're going to talk a little bit about Star Wars. And I've got some questions that I'm going to ask these guys. And then if these guys got questions, they can shoot them back. And I'm just curious what all you guys think. So my first question is, do you think these last two Star Wars movies by Disney have hurt the Star Wars franchise? All right. John, I'm going to go to you first. Let me know what your thoughts are. I don't want to say anything more, so just roll with it.
Right on.
Let's hear it.
Right on. Well, okay, so these last couple of Star Wars movies, I'm kind of with you on this because I'm of the age that Star Wars was an event in our lifetimes. As far as at the very beginning, it was a very small movie that got a lot of word of mouth buzz, and that's what created the phenomenon. But by the time you get to episode 5 and 6, as we know it now, it was an event. As soon as it was coming out, that really, in my memory, is the first movie that I ever remember people camping out to make sure that they were in the first in line and make sure they could go see it. Or hearing my friends say, I've seen this movie 5, 6, 7 times in theaters. So just what you said there, where quite a lot of us are looking at and saying, I can't wait for that to hit Netflix or for it to come out on digital or DVD. I kind of think a little bit they have. Now, I really do believe that it is I'm trying to think of the right word here. The only thing that comes to mind is the Disneyfication of the movies. You know what I mean? Originally, your Star Wars movies, they were a sci-fi, just go out there, have a good time, seeing explosions in space that could never happen. It was really easy to suspend disbelief. With the advent of the internet, the prequel 3, some of those, you start to see this where it's Disney really, really wrenching in on it and saying, these are our properties. And look, I'm a capitalist. I love it when people are making money because they're spending money to make money. They're creating jobs. Money is flowing in the economy at that point, okay? But for the sole purpose of something like that, to just be about making more money on the franchise, I think it cheapens it. That's my personal opinion. Guys, I'm going to go to you on that. How do you feel these last couple of movies have impacted the franchise itself?
I'm the total opposite of both of you guys. I think that there is a problem with viewing things with nostalgia colored glasses. You look back, you go back to the late 70s, early 80s when these movies dropped. And like you said, they were an event. They were something, but you didn't have streaming services. You didn't have cable yet. Very few homes had cable. And society has grown as the movies have grown. So yeah, it was an event that everybody camped out for and went to. I remember going. Star Wars, the original Star Wars, Episode 4, is one of the first movies I ever saw in the theater as a child. I was 4 or 5 years old. And yeah, it was an event, but it's a different society now, and we're dealing with upcoming generations that are used to having stuff right now. Also, as you get older, it takes a lot more to get you out of the house, especially when you have the options that you have of, it'll be out on DVD in 2 months. It'll be available on Netflix in 3 months. Why am I going to go spend $20 on something that I can see for $2 in a couple months? Now, you've got these newer movies that I think a lot of people, the backlash, like you said, the Disneyfication, and that's I'll go along with part of that because, like you said, being a capitalist mindset, yeah, their number one thing is they want to make money. And as Todd was saying about like Solo, he thinks that was a misstep. That was a little bit greedy. I'll agree with that. Because when they announced Solo, I was on the fence as a fan. I was like, I don't know. Is it really, who's this kid? He's going to play Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford's Han Solo. And I did not rush out to the theater to see it because I knew full well it would be out anyway soon. And once it came out, I watched it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, there was a couple things here and there that I was like, but it was a lot more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be. But I think, and at that time, they were making a Solo movie. They were making a Boba Fett movie. They were going to make an Obi-Wan movie. And I think once they're like, okay, this is a cash cow for us. We can make a ton of money off Star Wars now that we own the property. But Solo came out and everybody kind of had the same reaction. And they went, oh, okay, well, we're not going to do that now because it's not as much money as we thought it was going to be. But that's pretty much all my thoughts. Lagen, what's your thoughts?
Lagen, give us your thoughts, brother.
Between everything, I'm obviously a little bit younger than you guys, but Star Wars was what started it all for me. It all started with Star Wars. And I'm young enough and was poor enough where we didn't have cable when I was a kid, and you still had to wait, and you got to watch A New Hope one time a year. And yeah, that was very close to the time things started changing with Star Wars in '97. They started adding the computer animation and changing things. Jabba the Hutt changed, all kinds of things changed, but it still looked and felt and tasted like Star Wars. So I mean, there's a couple ways of thinking with how these last movies have impacted the new generations of the way people think. And I think that one of the things is a lot of people are like, well, we're getting more Star Wars. I don't care. And then there's older fans that are set in their ways that say that the new direction that these have gone have kind of changed everything, and that they're kind of pissing on everything that George built. But in the end, I mean, George sold it, and we are getting new material. Now, whether it's material that we enjoy or not, that's another question, and everybody's got their own opinion. But yeah, I'm banking on this new movie because, I mean, as a lifelong fan, the only movie I've really had a huge problem with is this, The Last Jedi. I mean, I think we were talking a little bit earlier about the opening scene with Poe and I think it was Hux, yeah. And from the very first opening scene, I said, this is different. You know, this is the first time it didn't feel like Star Wars. I mean, you still had Williams' beautiful score in the background, which thank God we've still got the original composition in it. But apart from that, I knew immediately this was going to be a different take on Star Wars. I stuck around to the end and I've watched it and I'll stay with it. Uh, but yeah, I mean, certainly the direction has changed. I don't know if this is a new generation's kind of greed with this, because I think we all agree that it did. It used to be an event, something we were excited about. For some people like me, that's what started all of this. That's what got me into comics and everything. And my story's not any different than a lot of fans. So I think we're all just on the edges of our seat for this for now.
All right, so thanks for your guys' responses, and you know, I'll give mine really quick. I seen the Force Awakens, and I thought it was safe, and I thought it was almost kind of like a bit of a ripoff of A New Hope. But I walked out of the theater after The Force Awakens, and I thought, you know what, I understand why they did it this way. You know, looking back, it was 30 years since Return of the Jedi. Luke, I mean, you know that Luke, Leia, Han are 30 years older. I don't know if I specifically would have went in that direction. I know that George Lucas had written some things about kind of like a microverse. I'm not sure if that, you know, I've heard about it. I'm not sure if that would have been the right direction either. You want to reestablish a fan base and get people excited. So, you know, maybe The Force Awakens was right. I think The Last Jedi hurt it a little bit. I think Rian Johnson took way too much liberty with all the stuff that he did. I mean, I'll just give an example, like Mary Poppins Leia just flying through space. You know, Mace Windu got kicked out of a window. Mace Windu got kicked out of a window and didn't come flying back up. Palpatine, one of the strongest Jedis, got thrown over the side, didn't come flying back up. I think that was a bit of a stretch. I think Rian Johnson stretched it a lot. I think after The Force Awakens, you know, Force Awakens wasn't perfect, but I thought it was good enough, and I thought it was redeemable. I almost feel like after Rian Johnson's depiction, it's almost not irredeemable. It's almost not redeemable. I'm hoping that it is because I'm a Star Wars fan. One of the things that I've heard a lot of people comment about is that Rey is a bit of a Mary Sue character, and I didn't know too much about a Mary Sue character, so I Googled it, and basically it's like a perfect character that has no faults, no flaws. And I did, you know, watch the movies again, and I noticed a lot of things that Rey does almost perfectly. I don't have a problem with Rey. I was actually excited when I seen the poster with Rey on it. I thought that was the right direction. it's just like it's hard for me like going into the next movie. Like, is Rey gonna lose in the next movie? I mean, for me, the only redemption to how perfect Rey is, because I mean, every other Jedi that we've ever learned about needed training, except for Rey. Like she got no training whatsoever, and she's like perfect. So the only redemption for Rey to me is if she becomes the next Darth Vader, but I can't really picture that. And I know from the posters and stuff that has been out there that Darth Sidious or Palpatine is going to probably be in this next movie, and I've heard some things that she might be related to him. I'm not really sure about that, but you know, I don't know. I mean, if Rey is so perfect, I don't know if she's going to lose in this next movie.
Well, I will tell you on my opinion on something like like that style of character. My opinion across all forms of fiction are we initially are drawn to characters with great power, but we end up loving them because of their flaws. We end up identifying with them because they have flaws. And I'm not sure I would go as far as to say she's a perfect character, but I will agree with you that if they want to give her more substance and more texture as a character, they do need to have something like her going to the dark side. Um, myself, for instance, I have felt that some of the newer characters feel like they're plugged in to the story, but are essentially interchangeable. Like I'm not sure why I would be invested in a lot of the new characters. We did go to see The Force Awakens in theater. It was the first time. It was the first time I had seen a real 3D movie since The Last Airbender came out. And if any of you guys saw The Last Airbender in theater in 3D, hot garbage. Okay, so I had it really bad. Okay, so I had a really low expectation on the real 3D, but that was something that kind of helped me out with it. And I believe that the other characters, you can see a little bit of story arcs of failure and redemption already starting to show up in some of them. At some point, I do believe that for the story itself, Rey will have to fall. That's my personal opinion. And again, that will fill her character out more. And I really hope and pray that that is what happens in this next movie, because if it does, I believe a lot of critics will be eating their words over some of those reviews. I'm gonna say the jury is out for me at this point with Rey as a character, though, because I'm hopeful that that's what happens. Am I guaranteeing it? Not by any stretch of the imagination, but I am hopeful. Lagen, how do you feel about Rey as a character herself? Do you feel that she's that perfect character, or how do you think they should go with her?
Yeah, I'll give her that she is pretty, sure. But yeah, I completely agree with you in this. And not that we want to mimic the way that the first movies that we watched kind of happen, but in any story of the hero and the hero's journey, that is when we find out what this character is made of, what their intentions are, how far they're willing to push the envelope, is when they fall, when they sink down to their lowest level. And we haven't seen that out of her. And like I said, she's pretty, but that's kind of metaphorical for also, there was a point in this new trailer where she does a beautiful aerial kind of flip over what looks like Kylo's his little TIE interceptor or whatever it is. But those are the kind of movements that we see out of Rey, and we've seen her defeat multiple enemies, and we won't get into the scene with her and Kylo Ren and all the choreography and that, but that's kind of the direction that we went with Rey, is that she hasn't fallen. We haven't seen too many even emotional ties that have really drawn her down. And to kind of piggyback off of that, I think that that's also the problem with having so many hands touch these Star Wars projects, is that I think JJ had a certain vision maybe for Rey, and maybe kind of an idea of a direction that he wanted to go in The Last Jedi. And that movie took The Last Jedi and turned the whole thing on its head, or turned The Force Awakens on its head, you know. So that's where JJ's going to have to come in, and he's got a lot of work to do to bring this back to maybe what his idea of what this was and how it should have been. But you know, it's a toss up right now. This movie has got to be a win, or it's going to lose a lot of us older fans for sure.
Guys,
Go ahead.
oh, all right. Well, before I get to guys, let me just clarify. I'm Mary. I don't. There may be a male version of a Mary Sue. I tried to look it up. It might be like a Marty Who or whatever. I don't know. It's not like a derogatory statement. It's just something that, you know, if you write a story and the character is completely perfect and flawless. I mean, like Superman, if there wasn't no kryptonite, Superman would be a Mary Sue character. So, you know, I'm not trying. I have no problem with Rey, and I agree she's pretty. she definitely has a great personality in her interviews. I really hope to get more out of this character, guys. What are your thoughts on Rey as far as the character goes?
I think she's more important than you think she is, and I think she's being downplayed on purpose. I could be wrong, but I mean, Luke Skywalker, when we first are introduced to Luke Skywalker, Luke is a whiny little bitch. Luke is, oh yeah, I'm going to get out of here. And then when he gets a chance to get out of there, he's like, I can't get out of here. Okay, so that's what you've got. And we're along for the ride. You talk about, oh, she has no training. Well, what did we see Luke get? We saw Luke show up at Yoda's house. Yoda jumps on his back, says, lift that rock, lift the ship. Oh, you can't lift the ship down. Look, that's how easy it is. Don't go in there. I'm going in there. He goes in there, comes back out, and says, oh, by the way, I got a jet. My friends need me. Well, your training's not done. Okay, so he didn't have a shit ton of training that we saw. But I think that she's being, because, I mean, she's the main character, basically. She's the new generation's Luke Skywalker, if you will, in female form, and I think she's being downplayed to the point that I think she's more important, and the best way to hide how important she is to act like she's nobody, because the shit just drops in her lap. You know, she's on Jakku, doing what she does. Her parents are gone. She's just trying to survive, and she gets roped into all this stuff. And they're like, "Oh, by the way, you're kind of a big deal." And she's like, well, "I'm not a big deal." And they're like, "Yeah, you are. Try this." And she tries that, and she's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm here now." So she's just kind of along for the ride, trying to find out about herself. And I think you've got a red herring or a misdirection when you got Kylo Ren saying, "Oh, by the way, you're nobody." To have the audience go, "Oh, you're nobody. Oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be." And I think, hopefully, in the next movie, like, "Oh, by the way, that whole you're nobody, you're not important." Yeah, you are. And I think it's going to be I think the feeling is, I think maybe perhaps they're going in a, if you don't think you're special, you really are sort of way, for a newer generation. Whereas, you think you're ordinary, but you can do extraordinary things. And I think that might be the message that we're trying to get across. Whereas, 30, 40 years ago, we were trying to get across the fact that, if you're stuck somewhere, you don't have to stay there.
Right.
I just think I think it's a different message for a different generation that is continuing the story that we grew up on, and I can look at it through fresh eyes as a diehard fan. That moment in I mean, I went and saw Force Awakens in the theater. I never go to the theater. I suffered after I saw that movie physically because I can't sit in the theater. But when I came out of the Force Awakens, I felt like a kid again, for 5 minutes. I had that feeling of, oh man, that was awesome. Like you said, they rehashed the first movie a little bit. Everything's more interactive. Everything's more, we didn't have the internet back then. Empire Strikes Back. If the Empire Strikes Back came out today, it would be ruined.
It'd be
months
crucified.
before the movie hit theater.
You're 100% right.
We have this society now where we pick apart every little thing before we even see it. We get a picture of it. We hear something. Oh, that's a terrible idea. Oh, that's a great idea. We don't know. We don't know until everybody has an opinion about something that they don't know anything about. But by God, they've got an opinion about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we see it every day in the groups that we're in, casting rumors. No, that person's not right. Oh, that person, like, for example, She-Hulk's been something that's been coming. Who would you cast She-Hulk? And I'm with you, John, not Rhonda. But we don't know what story they're going to tell for that movie. We don't know what script they're going to use. We don't know what story is going to be. And Rhonda might be the best choice until we see it. We don't know. There was a time when people said, Michael Keaton can't play Batman. Well, now everybody looks back and goes, Michael Keaton was one of the best Batman, if not the best Batman. But I've gone off on a tangent. What was the original question?
No, brother, you did good. And actually, you bring up something that, and Todd, I got to do it, man. Forgive me.
Yeah, no, I understand, man.
Okay, I got to bring up Jar Jar here. You said that things have kind of fallen in her lap a little bit. That has been one of the big things that people did not like about Jar Jar Binks. Originally, every lucky thing that happened to Jar Jar, it was all for good, and it all of his missteps, he came out smelling like a rose, which is why. And honestly, the way you talk about the internet and stuff like that too, I have to harken back. If you had, just like this, Frank Oz is a Sesame Street voice guy with the Muppets and stuff like that. You're telling me he's going to voice one of the greatest Jedis ever? Oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding. That's how that would have happened if it was released today. That's how that would have happened. And so the same thing is true, and I really do believe that's what derailed Jar Jar from being bigger in the prequels. And like I say, anybody can go on YouTube and look it up. Just all you got to do is search Darth Jar Jar. Search it. There's a list as long as my arm of videos that you can watch on it. And there's a compelling argument to be made that originally they were planning on Jar Jar being essentially the anti-Yoda. But because of the internet and for the first time fans being able to poo-poo an idea, Jar Jar hits the screen. So it wasn't that it was being done before folks saw it, but as soon as they saw it, whatever, it was chat rooms then. It wasn't social media. It was chat rooms, and just the overwhelming, oh my gosh, did you see Jar Jar? How lame. Misa this, Misa that, Yusa, blah. It's like everybody could not help but take a great big old dump all over Jar Jar. They would have done the same thing to Yoda back in the day, 100%, no question in my mind. And I do kind of think that you may be onto something there with Rey, that maybe that might be what's happening there. That's one of the reasons why I'm saying that I want to keep the jury still out on this one, because I don't want the same thing to happen to her. Not that I don't think they could do the same thing to her that they did to Jar Jar, but I mean, dude, I'm just saying, instead of Count Dooku and Yoda having a lightsaber battle, could you imagine an Yoda and an evil Jar Jar having that crazy lightsaber battle?
I think I would have preferred that.
Everybody would have if they knew that was an option.
Yeah.
But
If
see,
they
that's the
knew that
problem
was
is
an option.
we want to know it's an option right now. And I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go.
On what you're saying, but that's the point. Is like we've reached that point where you can't even have a plan, because if somebody gets word that part of you don't fully disclose your plan, like, hold on, it's going to pay off. If they even catch wind of the idea of something, that the studios and whoever is so afraid of losing money, they'll change it before it even comes out. So you don't even get the option of, like, we at least got to watch it and go, I don't like that. Whereas now we have I heard this and I don't like it. Enough people go to the studio and go, we don't like this, we'll change it. Sonic the Hedgehog. They dropped that image for Sonic the Hedgehog. The internet went nuts, and they're like, hold on, we're changing.
Right. No, that is the, I have to say it's one of the, everything in life has cost and then benefit. That's one of the costs of a free market is, and especially like you say, with that instant notification for people, that instant information, it's super easy to have that kind of thing happening. So
let me cut in here because a funny thing I was thinking about, I think either today or probably one of these days was, do you think that there was somebody when George Lucas was filming The Phantom Menace that thought this Jar Jar character is a terrible idea? And then also, I mean, I think one of the mistakes, and I know this one's kind of like, up in the air. I mean, killing off Darth Maul, probably one of the coolest characters in the prequels. I think that was a bit of a mistake. I would have liked to see maybe his hand get chopped off or something, or his arm get chopped off. So, I don't know. Like, George. I mean, George is an innovator, and he got a hold of that CGI, and he went a little bit crazy. But I think with the prequels, the underlying story is pretty good. Back to what we were originally talking about. I mean, I think JJ did a decent job. I think Ryan's story was a little bit crazy. But I'm going to go to the next question because I've got three here. All right, and I'm going to hit Lagen with this one first. All right. How do you feel about the treatment of the original trilogy characters in this? And I mean, don't be afraid to be like an armchair director. Any of you guys, like Han, Leia, Luke, Chewie, Admiral Akbar gets blown out of. It has probably one of the most unceremonious deaths of all time. I mean, I guess before I even go to you, I mean, like, this is 30 years after Return of the Jedi. They're human characters, so we know it's 30 years. I could almost picture myself, Luke having a family, having 2 kids, training them, Rey coming to Luke for training, and the kids, a lot of the comedy could have been with the kids and Rey. I'm not sure if I could picture Han going back to becoming a smuggler with Chewie. And then Leia as a general, I think I would have seen her more as a political figure. And Akbar, I don't know, I just think he should have been retired and been the king of his Sea World or whatever. He's the greatest gift of all time.
I'm not sure they could have used SeaWorld as that might not go over well.
So, Leia, what are your thoughts on their treatment of the original characters?
Again, I'm kind of right down the middle. I go back and forth because, like I said, Star Wars was what got me into everything, all of it, and I've got, an entire bookshelf full of old books that are canon and both what Disney now considers to be legends. So for me, there's just lots that's out there and a lot of just different general directions that people thought that things were going to go, and the treatment of Luke. A lot of people thought that he was going to have this big new Jedi Order and all of this, and I also I also see the point that Disney's trying to drive home, and that we're going to be passing the torch on. It is something that is making money. It's the American way. So yeah, we're going to keep going with it. And for people like us, it's beneficial because we're getting more material. And to touch a little bit on what Gaz was talking about earlier, there's kind of a sickness that has infected a lot of our hobbies, not just Star Wars, but deep inside comic collecting too, and that's the speculators market. If that's how you make your money, that's great. You're a capitalist, but at the same time, it's also, with the internet being born, it's brought everybody's opinion to be the most opinion in the world, and people want this instant gratification, and they want to know before something drops, before an official word has been made, so they can be the first one to possibly capitalize. And for us that want to stay true to it and kind of be surprised, that can ruin things and get in the way a little bit. And unfortunately, I see some of the worst fights ever about these fictional things that we love, and people fighting back and forth about this. And I think that if everybody went into the subject matter with an open heart, um, back in the day, you got one trailer for something. Now they're hyping it up, and people's opinions are just so rampant that even if you don't know what the script is, somebody has already put their opinion on the internet of what they think it is, and it's just it's hard to take the fun. It's easy to take the fun out of it with today's market, unfortunately. So yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah, the treatment of old characters, I do see Disney passing the torch. So not the direction I would have liked to have seen with Luke, but I am in this deep hope that we're going to get one of those Star Wars moments, one of those Empire moments where everything that's been happening is going to be for a reason, and we're just going to have our jaws drop. I think that's what we need, and I hope that's what's coming.
John, what are your thoughts on the treatment of the old characters?
Well, I'm with you that Leia strikes me more as a political type, but I also think that to Gaz's earlier points, this is a different generation, and this generation that is now in their late teens, early 20s, they're challenging a lot of what we as older fans would say are the roles that we expect people to go in, or the direction that they would go in. So I don't have a huge issue with it. As far as Luke goes, The Last Jedi felt like an epilogue to his story more than anything else, and I was so much hope, or I guess I was very hopeful that we would get more for it than just an epilogue, but it really did just, to me, feel like an epilogue to his story of he has fully mastered the Force, it felt like, but fully mastering the Force didn't manifest itself the way that we were expecting it to. You know what I mean? Like he was not a Force ghost there in that scene. He was projecting himself as though physically there, which is much more than projecting, thoughts into somebody's mind or anything like that. Like you say, people, they were giving that to him, and then he just kind of fades away, kind of like Obi-Wan did after Darth Vader strikes him down, but it was all happening. Again, I'm kind of with you, Lagen, in that I hope that there's this like mind-blowing aha moment in the coming movie that ties everything all together and makes some of this speculation and some of this worry totally disappear. And I'll say this too: some of my favorite TV shows have long-running themes that don't resolve themselves in one or two episodes. They will literally go seasons long. For instance, I'm a fan of Doctor Who, specifically the 11th Doctor. I'm sorry.
David
Excuse me.
Tennant. Is that David
No,
Tennant?
no. I'm sorry. I'm wrong. It's the 12th Doctor. It's Matt Smith who is my favorite. You are correct that 10 is the 11th. Matt Smith is my favorite Doctor, and I will bring this back Star Wars related, okay? But there is a rift in time, a crack in time from the very first episode that he's a part of. That crack in time shows up. It is it is almost to his very last moments as the Doctor before they resolve what the crack in time actually is, why it's actually there. And it spans over like 4 seasons, and they hint at it here and there, hint at it here and there. You think you know what it is at the end of each season, but you really don't. And what that does is that actually makes all of those old episodes more rewatchable. That's what I'm hoping for, is that aha moment makes all of us go back and be like, I've got to rewatch the Force Awakens. I've got to rewatch The Last Jedi. I've got to rewatch the prequels now, because it all ties together perfectly now. Now, am I saying they're going to do that? I don't know that I think they can do that, but man, if they do, I promise you, I'll be one of the first ones to say that my disappointment with these last 2 movies, I will gladly eat crow over it. Gladly.
You got so. Same question is, how do you feel about the treatment of the old trilogy characters?
I didn't really have any. I mean, everybody had their expectations. Everybody had their ideas of how they thought things would go or how they hoped things would go. I really enjoyed Force Awakens a lot, and getting back to that argument of it seems to be rehashed storyline a little bit. And that harkens back to the idea of the fan base being, we want something new. Here's something new. That's not what I want. I want my old characters back. Okay, here's your old characters with some new ones. Awesome. That's what I wanted. So here you go. This is the same old stuff. That's what you said you wanted. No, I want the old stuff, but I want it new. Okay, here you go. This is too different. There's no making anybody happy. But as far as the 3 original, well, even more than 3, but I'll take them one by one. Han seemed to be the most accurate. Like, sure, you wanted him to still be him and Chewie going out in the Falcon. Then you find out, oh, he lost the Falcon? That sounds like something Solo would, yeah, that sounds like something that would happen. Leia, it made sense for her to be in that role as a leader. I think a lot of people's biggest problems were with Luke, and Luke not being, basically this anti-emperor who is the head of all the good Jedi and has a whole brand new Jedi Order, and they've restored order to the galaxy, because that's what we were thought we were going to have. And I think a lot of fans, when Last Jedi happened, I watched it. The defining moment for me was Rey handing him his saber and taking it and chunking it over his shoulder. That pissed a lot of people off. When it happened, I was like, I'm in. why is he doing this? Why? This is Luke fucking Skywalker. Why would he? Okay. And I watched the movie, and I think it a lot of people do. Even Mark Hamill didn't like it. He's Luke Skywalker. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But I think it spoke to me personally, because when you're young, you're full of hope. You're full of, I'm going to change the fucking world. I can do it. I know what needs to be done. And, he's being told, you're the one. You're the one that's got to fix all this shit. And he gets it, and he starts turning the tide, and then he gets it, and he's like, this is not what everybody thought it was. This is actually a little bit dangerous. And I'm probably the only one that can handle it right now, so I'm just going to shut it off. So, Luke went away for a reason. And it wasn't just the Kylo stuff. He went away because, this is something that shouldn't be out there to basically screw up everybody's lives and screw up the entire galaxy. If I can put it in a container and put it over here, and then when I'm gone, it dies with me. We don't have to have Jedi. I mean, it's time for the Jedi to die. The last Jedi. He doesn't want any more. There doesn't need to be any more, because all it's done is cause problems for everybody, for generations. He was told this whole time that he was the one to fix everything. And he went, I can't fix this. This is too much. There's no fixing it. And a lot of people had a problem with that. And I didn't, because, I've had, as I've gotten older, I've realized some stuff just ain't going to happen. You can still hold on to your beliefs and still hold on to your things that, your altruisms that you have, but it's not, you can't change the world or the universe for that matter. And I think that, Luke just, he went away for a reason. He saw the good, he saw the bad. He took them both, and there he had the facts for life, kids. He was done. You spend your whole life trying to make everything right, and it just isn't going right. You just go, okay. And then you had the other argument of Luke not coming in physical form and just busting ass with his lightsaber and doing all kinds of tricks. You get older, you realize, you're young, you're going to throw fists. But as you get older, you realize you don't need to do that. And you've got a Jedi Master that I don't need to actually even be there. I don't even need to. I'm smarter than you. I'm wiser than you. And I'm going to beat you without actually being there. So a lot of people had a problem with Luke. I didn't. I thought it was pretty spot on. My biggest problem playing armchair director would be Solo's death. And not so much the death itself, but the aftermath. The one thing that bothered me was when they get back and Leia is like, where's Han? And she realizes he's not coming back. The thing that bothered me was Chewie. Just trucks right on by. Nothing between Chewie and Leia. I would have had those two should have been like, oh my God, he's gone. That would have been a great fucking moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think in a way these movies are a little bit style over substance. They missed that opportunity. They missed, I think they kind of missed Luke grieving over Han Solo. I appreciate your opinion on Luke. That was actually a pretty good explanation of Luke. I agree with some of the stuff that you said. Being older, not wanting to have to go and actually fight the battle anymore. I'm gonna go as a Force ghost instead. I think I would have seen Luke a little bit differently. Um, he was always a little bit more optimistic throughout all the movies, but you know, it's fun to play armchair director. It's fun to think about all the possibilities, and that's why this is a fun conversation. It's just to, you know, we see this and we can talk about it and listen to each other's perspectives and just I don't know. I mean, I think you made some pretty good points there. I appreciate that. I have so I'm going to go to another question before I start crying over here. um, I'm an emotional guy. I cried at the end of Toy Story 3. That was one of the saddest. When Andy had to give up his toys was one of the saddest moments of my life. But okay, so I do. I mean, in the Last Jedi. Okay, so J.J. Abrams kind of set up this story, and then Rian Johnson took over this story, right? And I think that's a problem in itself. Like, let somebody tell the whole story. Because I know there was a different director for episode 3 too. Like, it doesn't make much sense to me. Like, let them tell the whole story. I think if JJ told the whole story, I think I would be a little bit more satisfied. You know, so when we went from a J.J. Abrams film where Snoke was kind of this like devious, important character, and then we go to The Last Jedi, and Snoke is just nothing. I mean, he's meaningless. He's supposed to be this like powerful guy, but you know, he's sitting there with his eyes closed. And if you remember, I mean, Yoda when he had his eyes closed, he raised up the TIE fighter or whatever the ship's name is. I'm sorry. X-wing. Yes, I'm sorry. So you know, Snoke's sitting there. He's got his eyes closed, and he gets sliced in half. And it's like, and the reason I bring this up is because Rian Johnson had this picture, and it's like your Snoke theory sucks. And I seen that, and I kind of laughed. Like, you know, to me personally, your Snoke story sucks, and I mean, guys, you'll probably write me on this one as well. I'm not, so I don't want to go too in detail on this, but I was a little bit disappointed with Snoke. I really would have liked to have a story behind this character. I mean, there's some other characters in The Last Jedi. Hux was kind of like button heads with Kylo in the first movie, and then the second movie, and I seen Rian Johnson actually say this, that he was thinking like a Monty Python thing with Hux, and so he kind of made Hux into kind of like a joke. And the reason I have a problem with that is, I mean, if you've watched any of the other movies, like most of the Empire characters are usually pretty serious. Like, I could never imagine Tarkin just being like disrespected in that way. So, I mean, John, I'm going to turn this over to you. I mean, the question is kind of like Snoke, what the hell, and Hux, what the hell, and some of the things that they did in The Last Jedi. I'm not, you know, I don't want to sound like too much of a complainer with the whole Star Wars thing. I did it, like, I think The Last Jedi kind of rubbed me a little bit wrong. I think it was just really poor storytelling. I think Rian Johnson took a little bit too much liberty with that story. I think once again, it's style over substance. You know, if he would have told a better story, I think it would have been good. But John, I'm going to turn that over to you.
Right on. Well, I will say this, that yes, while there can be some comedic scenarios in Star Wars, I don't like to feel like and again, I also think that that's part of the reason why Jar Jar fell flat. What was too comedic, felt like that was his whole purpose, was being comedic, but I think that you want it to be more of a drama with some moments of levity, not characters that are comedy. And so, yeah, I think that turning some characters into, well, like Snoke, basically making a puppet leader, more or less, is kind of how that felt. it felt at one point, like you say, man, Snoke, what all of the theories that you saw before The Last Jedi, Snoke was the big threat, and then to dismiss him the way they did, it made his character feel flat. Now again, if we have a third movie and things all have this aha moment, we may all go back and be like, now we know why Snoke was just summarily dismissed and not a big deal at all. But we're not there yet, so we can only go off of what we've got right now. I do think that Snoke was a bit of a misstep in that way, because I think they could have fleshed his character out a little bit more. You know what? Even make us care about him more, so that when his death, and by care about him, I don't mean like him. I mean, dadgummit, that slimy, like overbearing guy. Give him just a little bit more of character building, and then when he dies, you're like, "Whoa, I didn't see that coming. That's amazing." And that could have been 3 to 5 minutes worth of a scene where you're showing what a truly rotten person he is, and that could have made all the difference. You do that, and I think that his death means more in the grand scheme of things. And like you're saying, with Huck being turned into more of a joke, I don't care for. I'm trying to think of any character in there that I've been like, that was good that they turned that character into a joke. Really, truly, the only two that should be a joke, I guess, from the whole series, and as I go back and think about it, are C-3PO and R2-D2. Those two, but that's because they're essentially watching everything unfold along with, and being the conduit for the viewers. Whenever there's a question that the viewers can't quite get their head around, it's C-3PO or R2-D2 that show up and kind of give them a vehicle to explain it better. You know what I mean? Those are really the only two that I can think of throughout the entirety should be and can be used for comedic value and levity that way. Everybody else, to me, I feel like they should, that definitely that they should be taken much more seriously as either a threat or as a companion. You again, that's just my opinion, and of course there are going to be different levels for everybody. No, you can't have 500 different characters all be the same level of importance. So I'm not really asking that. I'm just asking for a little bit more character development, I think. Lagen, how do you feel about the way things transpired with Snoke?
Yeah, to kind of touch on what you guys were talking about, one of the great things about the Star Wars franchise is that it's very good at giving us an emotional attachment to these characters, be it a good attachment or a bad attachment, friendly or foe. But we invest ourselves into these characters. We become interested in what their story is, what their backstory is, and what their future is going to be. So I'll get this straight right now. I'm not pissed about Snoke yet, and that's because maybe we're going in a direction that the Lord of the Rings went, where Saruman was killed in the second movie or the second book, and there's definite meaning behind it, there's reason behind it, and it is all explained, and it all comes full circle. Like maybe he is a pawn of Palpatine's, maybe he is a clone gone wrong, maybe he is nothing at all, maybe he is, he's been speculated to be from the unknown regions, and that's where Grand Admiral Thrawn comes from. So maybe there's a tie there, and so I'm not pissed yet because there's a lot of good directions that I think that we could go in Snoke's death. However, I do think that we do need some of the backstory of this kind of guy, and that's one of the things that if we don't do it right, then I think we've had a huge misstep. As far as the comedy level, I agree 100% that what worked in the original movies was that 3PO and R2 dynamic, you know, it was amazing the way that they did it. R2D2 speaks not a language any of us understand, but we all understand him, and that was something that I think we all enjoy. So I think that JJ got it right with a new droid in BB-8, and they did that pretty well. I enjoyed that, but I don't think that we needed 4 more characters to be comic relief because it takes away from the seriousness of this franchise, which I mean and that's just my opinion. Some people may have enjoyed laughing during the whole movie, but for me it's that eerie feeling Star Wars brings to you because it's so far away, that there are things that we're not supposed to be able to relate to, but at the end of the day they're human beings, so we do. But then you get someone like 3PO or R2 rolling around during an important scene, and it does, we enjoy it. But The Last Jedi, I think, pushed that kind of envelope. They knew that that was something that did work, and they pushed it really hard by giving other characters that edge, like Poe and Hux, and so. But it is what it is. It's set in stone. It's something we have to live with now. It's just where we move forward from here.
Guys, what are your thoughts, brother?
Pretty much what his were. I mean, he pretty much nailed everything that I was thinking, especially, like he was saying about Snoke. We don't know yet. So we have all these theories, and we don't know. I mean, he could be one of the Palpatine, because we know Palpatine's that. Well, we don't know, but in McDiarmid, we have the laugh at the end of the trailer. We're pretty sure Palpatine's back. So he could be, clones are a major part of the whole friggin' story. He could be a failed Palpatine clone. He could be a failed Skywalker clone. He could be some fucked up version of Rey's parents. He could be something that we don't know yet. Or conversely, he could be another Darth Maul. Oh, we thought you were a badass, and now you're just not here. And I mean, that's one thing that I agree with you, Todd, about, with the prequels, we had Maul, and he looks like a badass, and he's totally badass, and you get that badass lightsaber battle, and then he's just not there. We got no backstory. He has 2 lines of dialogue, and then I don't know if they were going for a Boba Fett vibe with him, but, we were kind of hoping that he was going to be, the precursor to Vader. And it never really panned out until, you watch Solo and he shows up at the end of Solo. As far as the comedic value, I agree with John, and, it's primarily should be and always should be 3PO and R2. And like Lagen was saying that, R2 doesn't speak a lick of English, but we all understand what he's saying. But I also think you have characters. It's a hard line to walk of having comedic bits or moments. You can have a totally serious character have a comedic moment, because that's just good character development. Because nobody's a one-trick pony. Because if all you are is serious all the time, or all you are is a comedy act the entire time, you're boring. There's no depth to your character. Nobody cares. You got Yoda, who's Master Jedi. When he first shows up on the screen, he's beating R2 with a flashlight, wanting a candy bar. He's belittling Luke, saying, "Oh, you can't get your shit out." But then you find out later, oh, he's kind of, a big deal. So I think I would say that the comedy aspect has been a little. I wouldn't say it's too over the top, but it's we need to dial it back.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I think you know, because it's a Disney film and because the Marvel films have had so much success with the comedy, that they went into this. Disney bought this, and they probably thought we got to follow this Marvel formula instead of following the Star Wars formula, which is slightly different. And you know, I agree with you guys. I mean, definitely R2 and C3PO were funny, and I thought BB-8. I actually like BB-8. I mean, he's actually a pretty cool droid. But so I've asked all my questions. Do you guys have any questions that you guys want to pose before we wrap this one up? I mean, I could talk more Star Wars if you guys want to. Just bring on a question, or we can wrap it up.
Why do you hate Darth Jar Jar, Todd?
No, I love the whole Darth Jar Jar idea. I just really just think that George got carried away with the whole CGI thing, and it's still it boggles my mind that somebody wasn't sitting there watching or watching this being directed and thinking, George, like, this is a big mistake. Like,
well, I think the idea for the prequels originally was so that quite literally our kids would grow up with Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then witness his turn to the dark side and watch it that way. What they weren't counting on is most of us would rather watch the original 3, then the prequels, then come to, so I mean, myself personally, I prefer to watch it out of order. I understand there is a machete version of the is anybody familiar with that at all? I'm not making it up.
Yeah.
There's an out of order way to watch them that is supposed to be very increase the interest for all of the movies so far. I will say of all of the newest movies, this newest series of movies, by far my favorite was Rogue One. That was my favorite of all of these newest movies, and really, it cemented. I guess it had enough new stuff and enough character development I got invested in. Even though I knew the outcome was going to be, I was still invested in rooting for. And when Darth Vader showed up,
oh my God, yes,
it was just this impending dread and doom, which is the way you should feel when Darth Vader shows up. If you're a rebel, you should know this is horrible and atrocious. And like you say, we all know that they're going to get the map out, but it felt like I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, being like, they're going to screw this up, and this is how's this going to work? And then you know it's just barely by the skin of their teeth the whole time. Again, that's my favorite of the newest ones. I would like to know which one's your guys'. Which movie was the favorite of each one of you guys? You don't have to go into. Go ahead.
I want to go full dark side on you and tell you Rogue One is my least favorite Star Wars film of all time.
Because it was the downfall of the Empire.
No, because it wasn't a good movie.
Oh man, that's
actually,
I had high hopes for that movie. I watched it once. I was disappointed. I tried to watch it again. I can't get into it. There's the most entertaining character, the most human character in that entire thing is the droid.
The droid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right.
That tells you a lot when the droid outacts the human. And everybody says the exact same thing when they talk about how awesome Rogue One was.
I
Vader scene at the end. Yeah, that was awesome. That did kick ass. But that's all anybody ever talks about is the Vader at the end part.
Yeah.
I agree
Nothing
with
about
you.
it excited me.
I agree with you. I went to go see Rogue One with my son, and he's 11 now, so he probably was like 9 back then. And he midway through the movie, he was a little bit bored, and I guess that challenges the whole idea that George always threw out there that this Star Wars is for kids, because Rogue One wasn't really for kids. I do agree that that droid was hilarious. I mean, he was one of the best droids,
Great.
one of the best droids of all time. And that and I heard and I watched one video, and they said that they didn't even plan on doing that Vader scene at the end, but I mean, I have to admit that was probably one of the most epic scenes
Oh,
in
yeah.
any of the Star Wars movies. Vader, oh my god! And the worst, the only thing though is I walked out of that movie and all I thought was, oh my god, I'm not going to see more of this Darth Vader. Like shit, that was amazing.
Megan, do you have a favorite of the newest movies?
My favorite was the D23 announcement when Ewan McGregor got on stage. I don't know if you guys saw that. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, or I think it's just called Kenobi, has been announced. And I know that there's also talks of a Kenobi series. I hope that's not the direction. If it is, cool for some people. But so far, that has been my favorite moment. I mean, I'm super excited, and I'm waiting for that thriller still. As far as my favorite, I'm kind of with Gauze on The Force Awakens. For me, I don't know what it is about Easter eggs in comic books, Easter eggs in movies and novels, anything that is a throwback, I thoroughly enjoy. And the TIE Fighter Millennium Falcon scene in The Force Awakens, whenever you get the music from A New Hope, whenever they are in the trench, they go through the Death Star, man, that gave me chills. And with today's CG and all of that. So and I know that there's arguments that movie was some kind of carbon copy and whatever, but people had to know with JJ, he is a master of paying homage and giving respect to the old ways. I mean, look what he did with Star Trek. And so for me, The Force Awakens was my all-time favorite. I quit drinking a couple of years ago, and after I went and saw The Last Jedi, I came out feeling kind of drunk again, and I was like, what the hell? But like I said, I'm a diehard fan, so I'm gonna be with it till the end. I'm gonna ride this ride till it's over. But yeah, favorite thing has been the Kenobi announcement, because Ewan McGregor is a phenomenal actor. And yeah, so I guess my question would be, have you guys heard anything as far as new announcements? Like the Mandalorian's a big announcement that's been going around right now, kind of buzzing.
I'm looking forward to The Mandalorian.
I'm intrigued by it.
I'm a huge. That's one of those things that I'm not big on. Characters that are cool just because people think they're cool. And to clarify that, I mean like, yeah, people like, oh, Wolverine in the '80s. Everybody was all about Wolverine because he was the badass and he was the coolest, and that type of mentality kind of steers me away from those type of characters. Just, I don't know if it's everybody likes him, I don't like him sort of thing. I don't know if that's something that means or not, but I'm on and there's arguments against it, and I hear them and I don't care. It's one of those things that I'm, the biggest thing like with, for example, Batman fan, prep time. Batman's no, Batman will find a way. That the biggest turnoff for me as far as Batman is Batman fans. And knowing I can press their buttons, I'll do it any day of the week. But that being said, Boba Fett, I'm in. I love Boba Fett. I love the mystique of the character since I was a kid. People like, oh, he's barely on screen. He barely says a word, and he falls in a giant, sand vagina, and he's dead. And I'm like, I don't care. He's cool. So reading up on Boba Fett as a fan and Mandalorian armor and Mandalorians, and I'm hopeful, and I'm looking forward to it, and I hope it delivers. The dude that they've got playing the Mandalorian has got chops, and Jon Favreau. The guy who launched. Let's to steal your catchphrase, John. Let's be real here. Jon Favreau launched the MCU because he's like, I want to make an Iron Man movie, and it blew up. But my question for you guys would be, is there something in this, we'll just say this upcoming movie, I don't even remember the name of it right now. It sucks. The last part of this newest trilogy, if you will. Is there a scene in that movie that, as an armchair director, let's say, that you would want to see? If you could fan cast or fan script a scene, a simple scene that would just make it for you, what would it be? Mine would be, all I need is to see Finn running somewhere important, and a guy drops out, gets the drop on him, starts kicking his ass. Can't really see, just know it's a guy in beat up armor. You think maybe it's Captain Phasma, but it's not. Turns around, light shines on him, and it's just beat up armor and a guy in a busted up stormtrooper helmet with a red bloody handprint on it, and pulls out the baton and says, "Traitor." That's all I need. What about you guys?
That would be pretty amazing. I'll admit that would be pretty amazing. Man, as far as one scene that would make the movie for me, I guess it's probably going to have to be Palpatine and Rey in some type of confrontation. Whether or not it is just a wooing to the dark side or what, I'm not sure, but I think to me at this point that those are the two forces that seem like they are destined to meet and have some type of confrontation. And I know that with this one, with Rise of Skywalker, I don't see a way around that happening in this movie, but I also don't know that it's going to have any kind of closure in this movie. And that's with me not, like, off the top of my head, not being able to recall how many more movies they have planned. I wanted to say I thought that this was like the final installment, but I may be wrong. And I just, that would probably be the scene, though. It would not be yours is much better thought out than mine is, honestly, though.
Lagen, why don't you go, and then I'll go.
Man, that's a super tough one because, like I said, I'm kind of a whore for nostalgia. So part of me wants this big epic scene with every character in it, but then I also want Luke to come back, and I want to see how far he can push the Force. Part of me wants, someone to wake up and, parts of The Last Jedi being, a dream. I don't hate all of it. I'm kind of 50-50. So if I had to nail it down into one scene, it's kind of like in the last Avengers movie where, spoiler alert, if anybody hasn't seen it, I think I need to hide anything. But anyway, the scene where Thor chops off Thanos' head in like the opening scene, you're just like, wait, what? Kind of like that with our Snoke theory. Going back to that, I want everything to come in full circle, and I kind of want it to be choppy, rough, fast, one scene that leaves us with our jaws on the floor, for good or bad. Who knows how it's going to go. But I kind of want it just to be a very, very quick kind of cut to the bone moment that we realize what direction this next franchise is going in, and that this last one is finally in the ground and it's over and the Skywalker saga has ended. For a start.
That's a good point, and I like some a bunch of the things that you guys. I think I have something on everything that you guys have said. Guys, with the whole Finn thing, I mean the stormtroopers were always kind of like clones, or they were just obedient. And I think the Finn thing kind of challenges that a little bit. I know I watched the video about the stormtrooper paradox that was created when Finn became, realized that he shouldn't be a stormtrooper anymore. I mean, you'd think that more stormtroopers would probably think that way than going in and slaughtering people. Like, I mean, at the beginning of the Force Awakens, Finn kind of wakes up because they're just going and slaughtering people. I agree with John. I think the whole Rey and Palpatine ending, and I'm pretty sure that's probably what's going to happen. I think that's really the thing that I look forward to the most. And the hardest thing for me is, where do you go from here? Like, okay, so let's say Rey beats Palpatine. What do you do after that? I mean, and that's one of my criticisms of this new series is, like, the prequels were like a story about the government, and then you've got the Star Wars, and then now we go back to the Star Wars. So then, do we go back to the Star Wars again? I mean, is that what we continuously do? I mean, that's going to get boring after a while. And I guess one of my things with this, just being the armchair director, would have been like, maybe like, this is 30 years after the Return of the Jedi. Planets have decided that they don't want to join the Galactic Senate, and so there's allies, and different planets are allying against each other, and maybe you could tell a story that way. I haven't really fully thought this all out, but I did something.
You can't tell.
It's a lot. I mean,
neither has Disney.
But I do look forward. I do hope this next movie is good, and I do hope that it opens us up to something new. One of my other criticisms is, like, George Lucas did trilogy, and I almost think that they made a mistake trying to do another trilogy. They should have almost went the Marvel route. And I know, once again, I mean, I haven't thought this completely out. I mean, I'd have to think this out. But, you could have done separate movies for separate characters, and then you could have had, like, the Avengers type movies together. I think the whole trilogy thing was, they got a little bit wrapped up in the whole George Lucas thing. But those are my thoughts. I mean, anybody else got any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
My only final thoughts, and this is going to be, by the way, completely off the subject, completely. Support local artists. Support our artists, friends. Support Gaz, support Lagen. These guys have done amazing work that we have all witnessed. Follow them on Instagram. Follow them on Facebook. I'm still just barely scratching the surface on Instagram, and I found some of Gaz's unpublished works, and it's some of the greatest stuff I've ever seen. I mean, it's hilarious and dark and just great. And whenever he's like, yeah, this is unpublished, would you say it was like 10 years old or something like that? But that
20.
your wife, 20, and your wife's like, you need to share that on social media. I don't know that you could have got away with it 20 years ago, though. So it might be good that it was unpublished then. But
I actually self-published that as mini comic,
right,
which entails making the book yourself and going to Kinko's and making the double-sided copies and hand stapling, hand folding, and doing all that. I did that for 5-6 years. I had 10 issues of my book, which was called Mosh Pit, which was about a teenage garage band, and I had one issue of the dark stuff that you saw, and I actually helped a guy put out. We had a little scene going on in Pittsburgh, and I had two friends that were like, I kind of want to do that. It was very punk rock, very do it yourself. And they're like, how do you do that? And I showed them, and they each put out, well, the one guy actually put out 12 issues, put out 11 issues back in 2000, between 96 and 2000. And he put out his 12th issue 2 years ago. He was like, I got to finish the story. And he sent it to me, and I was like, this is awesome, man. It wraps everything
That's so
up.
cool.
Perfect.
So now one thing too, and Lagen, you may have this handy or you may not. We're talking about the Mandalorian. I think you might know what I might be talking about. You've got a piece from that you did of Boba Fett. Do you have that handy or close?
I do have it.
I would like for you to show that off because I've got a print of it.
Do you have pants on? This is a family-friendly video.
Wait, Todd. I wasn't asking to see him below the waist, man. I'm looking for a piece of artwork that Lagen has that if you guys have not seen it, guys, especially.
Hey,
Go ahead.
That's why I was asking earlier if this was rated R. You know, if it was going to be okay. No, I'm pantless right now, but I got the green light earlier, so you guys will get a surprise.
Yeah. I told him to be himself.
This is how I draw.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Let me go grab it real quick.
All right. Cool. So
get the artwork too while you're at it.
I'm a little offended here. You're giving all this credit to all these artists, and I actually wrote a story, and I get no love here, John. What the hell, man? I thought we were friends. Moses did a cover for my book, man.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Okay, support your local creatives. Is that better?
Yeah, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Okay, because you're creative, Todd.
I hope so.
No, dude, I'm waiting with bated breath for issue number 2 of Crew.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
You know, I'll say this. You know, I said before we got on, I have no problem taking anybody to task. If I think something's bad, it's bad. If I think something's good, it's good. And Todd, you may think I only said it because I'm your friend or because I was hoping that you would let me do a cover. But the Crew is hilarious. It's well written. Storytelling is awesome, and I'm not saying that to blow smoke up your ass.
Oh, thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really good.
I like it, so that's all that matters to me, right?
Right on.
All
right,
yeah.
We're waiting to see this artwork that I've been. Like I say, I've been a fan of since the day I saw it. I think I saw it at our local comic shop, Cosmic King, for the first time. I believe is when I saw it first. So, go ahead and tell us about it and show it off.
Yeah. Well, a little bit about it. So I stopped I stopped drawing for like 12 years after high school. Got super bad into basically anything you could consume. Then all of a sudden my dad died and my brother died. And I kind of a wake up call. I decided, well, maybe that kind of lifestyle is probably going to kill me. So I decided to make a change, me and my, at the time, fiance, and I got sober and I finally picked up a pencil again because my hand stopped shaking. So, decided to see if I could get back into it. And this was one of the very, very first pieces that I did. And, kind of another tie-in with this, it's kind of how I met John, and John really got me on the scene, sitting here talking with people like Gaz and the War Dog and John, it's kind of a little bit of star-studded, but it's this mutual love that has gotten, I think, everybody where they get in this business, and it's just being nice. So, but anyway, this is kind of where it started.
That is
So,
badass.
Thanks, man.
That is awesome, man.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's just a colored pencil.
Dude, do you have prints of that?
Oh,
I do. I do. Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's whenever I got back into it, I was too scared to show things like this off, because ask any artist, they're their worst critic.
Oh, yeah.
And it just took a few people saying, hey, get yourself out there, get involved with these groups and talk with these people. And if I had one piece of advice to give anybody, it would be a two-part thing. It would be get out there, have some confidence, and just be nice, just be courteous, and that will take you very far. So
absolutely.
That's where this came from. And, it's been uphill, ever since. So yeah, guys, I'll get your address from you and I'll send you some stuff, man.
Oh yeah, man. Hey,
Hey,
there's a lot of parallels between your short story on how you stopped and came back to it. It's very similar to mine. But what you were saying is absolutely true. I had actually gotten away from doing comic art. I hadn't picked up a pencil in years, and I was always wanted to do comics, and I just kind of stopped. And then I was like, well, I had realized that was something that wasn't going to happen. So I started doing graphic illustrations, which was sports figures and popular movie figures and TV shows, and I got really halfway decent at it, that enough people were like, they would check it out every now and again. And I was bored and needed an outlet, and I joined a bunch of comic groups. And I was like, yeah, I liked comics. Maybe that's something that's, maybe there's something there. And it kind of reignited that spark inside, kind of flickered a little bit. And I was like, I'm going to try to draw. And I tried to draw in my new style, but add comic book stuff to it. And I was like, well, here goes. Threw it out there, and feel like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, well, here's another one. Now that's even better. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go back to my comic style, because this is really takes too long. It's too time intensive. So I switched it up, and then all of a sudden people liked my stuff, and people were like, hey, do you want to do a comic cover? Yeah. Hey, do you want to be in this comic? Yeah, since I was a child, that's all I've ever wanted. Yeah, I want to do that. So everything you said is absolutely 100% true. Put yourself out there. Be consistent. Keep working. It is all uphill. And I still got to work on the be courteous thing. But other than that, yeah, everything you said is 100% true.
Don't shit on the rug, right?
Do not shit on the rug.
Oh, that's a classic line. I'm glad you brought that one up.
That's going to be the hashtag in all new Gaz Mosis videos from here on.
That's going to be my epitaph.
I know.
I don't doubt that.
Don't shit on my grave.
Somebody finally shit on the rug.
All right, guys. Well, I think we've gone pretty late on this one, so we'll wrap this one up. I think we've all given our final thoughts, except for me, but I don't have any final thoughts at this moment. I enjoyed this. I really appreciate you guys joining us. Lagen, I've never talked to you before. It was a pleasure, brother. I hope to talk to you again. Guys,
Yeah,
I talked
too, man.
Guys, I've talked to you a few times. I always love talking to you. John, I'm sick of talking to you, man. I'm just
we'll do it again next week anyway, won't we?
I know. I'm just kidding, man. I love talking to you as well. So, look, let me just give my final thought. It was a bunch of people with different opinions having a conversation, and we had fun, and we didn't argue. We didn't apply labels upon anybody. We didn't say that you're, a nerd or anything like that. You can have a conversation about things and just have fun. It's really like I said to these guys before we did this video is think about when you were in the lunchroom back in the day, back when it was fun and you just shoot the shit. And that's what we did here today. And I appreciate all you guys. So peace out.
Be good or be good at it.
Take it easy, guys. All right.